I told Judy that this was either going to be a little longish or it was going to be the shortest thing I've ever said in front of anybody. When we moved into Sun City West, one of the first people we met, I used to go out and play golf by myself. And one day I went to the golf course and they said, there's a threesome, do you want to join them? And the threesome was Bob, Kurt, and Ken. And from then on, we all became friends. I was lucky enough to be part of the Tigers and friends. And but as time went on, I was still working, and I would drive miles and miles and miles every day because I had every Home Depot in the whole state. And it was an easy job, but it was very boring. And Bob was kind enough to travel with me every once in a while. And one time I remember more than anything, it really showed how much what kind of person he was and the friend he was to me. Normally I'd go and I'd take care of 3 stores or so in a certain area, but this time I had to cover every single store in 2 days. And it was 1,100 miles, 12 hours a day. And Bob was by my side the whole time. And it takes a true friend, because I know I couldn't get my wife to go that far with me. So it took a true friend to do that. And, you know, as you go through life, you have usually 1 or 2 best friends in your life. And usually when you're a child, you have a best friend that you play ball with and you do things like that. And maybe when you go to school and college, you have somebody there that you rely on. Well, I never expected to have a true best friend when I was in my 60s. Yeah. So, Bob, I will never forget you. I love you dearly, and I will miss you.
Anderson, and my husband Howard and I had jam sessions on our homes for 36 years, counting Virginia and out here. We moved to Arizona in '83, and that summer we started jam sessions. And I don't remember when Judy and Bob showed up, but it wasn't too long after that. And they were regulars every week. Month in, month out, they were always regulars with smiles and Bob with a joke or something. And then when our daughter was getting married, I think it was '87, and we don't drink, so I asked them for suggestions on champagne. Well, they had the good suggestions, and they brought it, and it was her wedding gift. But we'll never forget how kind and nice both of them. We were always delighted to see them. Everybody I can't say that for, but there were a few you dreaded when they showed up. No, not you, Larry. But they're wonderful friends. Wonderful friends.
3 hours, 7 to 10 on Wednesday nights every week.
Standing up.
Standing up. Everybody stood up in those days. So what I remember, one of the things I remember about, other than him being a really nice guy, I remember he'd sing a song called I Wonder How the Old Folks Are at Home. And that's when I learned about psychedelic cows. Because once in a while he'd accidentally sing, I can see the cattle lowing in the lane. Instead of hearing them. Lowing. You're supposed to hear the cattle lowing in the lane. So anyway, Bob was a great guy, and we'll miss him all.
Bob and Judy at Howard's Jam. And then I found out about a certain ice cream shop in Scottsdale. It was the best quality ice cream. And I wish you could buy a single screw like they had a double screw back then, because it was pretty wild. But they were all so kind, and we went out to the ice cream shop several times, visited their home a couple of times, and it was always a great visit to be with them. They were just that kind of people. But, I sort of got it over on Bob one night at Howard's Jam. This gentleman was there with an Ovation bass, upright bass, and it was a small, rounded back bass. And he even chuckled with this. He said, that night we played to a standing ovation.
I breezed in at 1995, brand new, didn't know how to jam, nothing, and had my wonderful husband of color with me, had no idea what I was stepping into or how we would be received. And Bob and Judy, I remember them vividly there, and of course Howard and Susan and Paul Wilson and all these people just welcomed us in. And it was such a thrill. And then Bob, I'd never jammed, and he said, well, do you know I saw the light? And I said, yeah, I know that one. And he encouraged me, and I was so nervous. Anyway, I did it, and they were all complimentary. And that's my memory always of those wonderful people. And she's here somewhere. I couldn't see her. Where is she? Mary, there you are.
Oh, from Family Comfort Hospice. I'm sorry, I'm a social worker. They're family, so that's why I didn't even say where I'm from, because they are now my family. So I'll just say a little bit. Bob always greeted me with this big smile, and me and Judy would just start blabbering, and I'll always hug her, and we're talking about things. And then I'll say, how you doing over there? Is anything you want to add? No, you guys are fine. You guys are fine. So his spirit just touched me from the first day I met him, and he's always going to be in my memory.
I just wanted to just come up here with these ladies and, once again convey on behalf of our hospice, we were so honored to serve Bob, and I say serve because people often ask, how do you do your job? And it's really not a job to us. Hospice is really a calling. And I thank God for Summer and for Rose, and sometimes we'd all tag team together, and he would sit and kind of nod and give a word here and there. But one thing in closing that I always love to do is I always love to look up the origin of names. And I looked up Robert, and Robert is a German name that means bright. And Rogers is a French-English name, but it's also a German name that means renown. So Robert Rogers had a renowned brightness about him. And that will always stay in my heart. God bless you all. Thank you again.
As having the most kind eyes. I think Bob displayed as much warmth to a person he did not know extremely well as he did to someone who was his real buddy, maybe jamming buddies. I will think of Bob Rogers as a gentle giant of a man.
And I gotta tell you about me before I tell you about Bob, which is probably more interesting anyway. When I was about 80 pounds lighter and 2 or 3 decades younger, I was a folk singer, and it was in the 60s. And I learned pretty early, if you wanted to get the girls, a guitar was the instrument for you. And I spent many an afternoon on the Washington Mall. All you had to do was sit down, play Michael Row You Boat Ashore, any of that stuff, and you would get a crowd. So, unfortunately, rock and roll screwed us out of that. So I put my guitar away for probably 30 years. And then I came out here and decided that I wanted to play again. And I wanted to try to learn to play bluegrass music, which I had no idea, no song, nothing. And Howard and Susan Anderson jam again. They've introduced most every guy that plays bluegrass in their house. And that's where I met Bob. And you stood in a circle, as we'll do here when we play, to be a little bit better. And then Bob and I became good friends, and I really wanted to be his friend because he lived in Scottsdale. And he was going to be my ride Andersons. About 2 jams in, 2 weeks into this thing, I said, you know, we really ought to share driving. That's close, you know, one wasn't there, you had to go down the city streets to get over. And he says, well, too bad, I'm moving. So that's when he came over to Sun City and left me as an orphan. Because there's not a lot of bluegrass in Wisconsin.
No.
But over the years, I mean, we've played in many jam sessions at his house, in the parks, festival parking lots. Rob is gonna explain to you how Bluegrass Jam actually works, so you kind of understand what we do when we play. But I learned so much from him about playing the guitar and singing, and he knew 1,000 songs and hardly ever looked at the words. Some of us have to look at the words, and he knew them. He knew a lot of bluegrass songs, he knew a lot of country songs, and this is his guitar. And I can tell you a little story about his guitar. It's 33 years old. It's a Martin D28, and it's a premier guitar if you're a bluegrass picker. That's the one you want to have. Some people have D18s, which is the stepchild, which is what mine is, of this one. This is the good one. And before Judy and he were married, Judy had a relative that lived at, or had a store in a mall in Ohio. And in the mall was a music store. And he went down and fell in love with this guitar. And he paid $700 for it. $700 was 2 weeks of pay for him back in those days. So you know he loved it. And for 33 years he cared for it and played it. I promise. Anyway, 2 weeks before he died, he asked Judy if she would bring him this guitar so he could polish it. And that just shows you what love he has for his instrument. Judy was always number 1. This was number 2. Golf might have been a distant 3. He really, really liked this guitar. And to buy this guitar today is about a $2,500 guitar. So I'm going to try to play it and show you what it sounds like. So if you will indulge us, I'll play this thing. I don't think you'd appreciate the compliment. Back in the old days, when I say the old days, they really were the old days in the 60s. I was a finger picker. That's what folk singers did. And bluegrass played flat pick, which is what this thing is. And the faster you can pick and the more notes you can pick, the better.
Before you start, I just have to tell you, when Bob had his stroke in August of 14, he'd been playing the guitar for over 70 years. And he came home from the hospital and asked for his guitar. He could not remember how to form a chord. And he was known as the rhythm guitar player. He was not a finger picking guy. And so people counted on him for rhythm. He couldn't count the rhythm. So Lynn was a frequent visitor to our home, and he saw what was happening. So the first thing Lynn did was put a what's it called? Metronome on the computer so that Bob could practice with that to get his rhythm back. Then he worked with him, and he got him to be able to play an entire song and sing an entire song again. That is a true friend. And he worked with him at least once every 2 weeks? And we got back to, going to the park once, I believe. Which I fortunately have a video on my phone. I finally got a smartphone and learned that you could do things like that. And so I have the video of Bob, the last day at the park that he was able to manage. So, I mean, I just can't tell you enough about that man standing up there and what he's done for Bob in his life. So.
That was not that good, but you listen to the tone of this thing. The back of it is made out of rosewood, and the front of it is made out of spruce. And it's called rosewood because when it's sown, it smells like roses. It's not from a rose tree. But it's the one that has the most projection, and it's the one that everybody wants to play and own. And it's loud enough, if you play it right, that you can actually play louder than a banjo, which was always what we wanted to do. What we're gonna do now, like Judy said, they had this favorite song that they found somewhere. Judy was the light of his life. I just truly, truly loved her. I mean, I like my wife pretty good. When I would come over, he would give Judy a chance to go to the store or something. And God, he wouldn't leave me alone. Woman, no, where is she? Is she coming back? Is she doing? What time is it? And I call her. Bob, just shut up, let's play. She didn't stop reading. She was going to come back. Anyway, Rob and I are going to do this song, which we have never done. Just a little or turn around. I can't remember the song. On some southern railroad track, let that 290 freight train get my worried mind. Trouble in mind, I'm blue, and I won't be blue all day. The sun don't shine, my back door someday.
It's been washed a million times, so I figured, why not cut it up? So, cut it out, and my friend Liz laminated it for me, and so it's on the board. That's the golf story along with his golf balls.
I've got another golf joke that he told.
Well, he told this one?
Oh, yeah. Well, I asked him, I says, do you take an extra pair of pants with you on the golf course? And he says, well, what for? And he says, in case you get a hole in one. Make a circle, close the circle.
You don't wanna put your back to everybody. Do you? Maybe you guys.
Go Russ.
Go Rush.
Just a
A.
second. G.
A. A.